Hello and welcome to School Counseling. Before we dive into the history and philosophy of this profession, I want to highlight the three main areas that school counselors focus on when going about their day. School counselors are meant to help students in regards to their career, academic, and social-emotional development. Now, we'll go more into detail later on, but now let's get into how it all started. School counseling essentially developed out of vocational counseling, which birthed from the late 1800s out of a humanitarian concern during the Industrial Revolution. This was a strenuous time for most, with large amounts of new immigrants and poverty on the rise. Frank Parsons, an individual who recognized this struggle, sought to strengthen the industrial education and even created a process of vocational guidance. Parsons essentially argued that schools should be balanced between standard bookwork and industrial education in order to properly set people up for success. Now, this guy named Cowley stressed the importance of developing relationships with students in order to effectively go through educational options and to capitalize on their strengths. So, instead of labeling and seeing a student for their weaknesses, Cowley believed school counselors should find positive attributes that will help that student succeed. Cowley believed counselors should provide resources for students' mental health along with educational support simply so that students are able to strengthen their mental state while working on academia. The 1950s sparked a significant change in the school counseling profession due to the passing of the National Defense Education Act of 1958. During this time, school counselors were pushed to become indirectly involved in the U.S.'s competition with Russia. The government required states to submit plans of how they would test students so that strong academic students could be utilized and encouraged to study sciences, engineering, and math. Over time, licensure was made readily available so that counselors could officially gain the knowledge needed in order to work outside the school domain. It was during this time that the ACA was formed. Now, this is where we come full circle. In the early 2000s, ASCA published the National Standards for School Counseling Programs, which argued for the focus on the three domains I mentioned before. This national model consists of four main areas: foundation, delivery, management, and accountability. While keeping these things in mind, school counselors have a number of roles and duties that come with the job. This includes being an advocate or agent of social change, a consultant, a therapist, group counseling, an advisor, an educator, and more. Now, to get into the organizational side of things, we're going to need to talk about a few institutions that are going to shape your school counseling career. As far as credentialing goes, there's the ACA, there's ASCA, NBCC, and your state credentialing body. Personally, I would join my state association first because they have the most resources and networking benefits that would directly help me in my work. Getting more detailed information on the state laws and understanding how the state system works are important factors when providing counseling services to clients. I would also join the ACA because of their specialized groups. Having these support groups for various issues would help me in my day-to-day work. Lastly, I would like to be certified through the National Board of Certified Counselors so that I would have an easier time moving around the country if that's what I desire. Alright, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of it all. So, the standards that all counselors must abide by are the CACREP standards. These standards dictate the knowledge one needs to acquire before they go and practice in the field. What it also does is create a unified counseling profession. Specifically, one you can advocate for and represent while you're working. And that leads me to my next subject, which is Code of Ethics. Now, there are two main Code of Ethics that counselors can refer to when practicing. These are provided by the ACA and ASCA. The ACA provides a code of ethics for all professional counselors, and ASCA provides a code of ethics specifically for school counselors. So these are things you're going to want to have handy when going into the profession. These codes of ethics are in place for several reasons. One being to set a standard and to limit government interference of the profession's regulation. Two, to protect members of the profession. And last but not least, to protect clients of counseling services. So, let's play out a scenario where these ethics would apply.
Now remember how I told you that Jenny never seemed to want to go home? Well, she lived in a house that was old as Alabama. Her mama had gone up to heaven when she was 5, and her daddy was some kind of a farmer.
Jenny?
He was a very loving man. He was always kissing and touching her and her sisters. And then this one time, Jenny wasn't on the bus to go to school.
Now, Jenny never admits her home abuse to a school counselor, but if she had, according to ASCA's Code of Ethics Section A9D, which states report to appropriate authorities when students disclose a perpetuated or perceived threat to their physical or mental well-being, the counselor has both a legal and ethical obligation to report the abuse. If you are unsure on how to solve an ethical issue, you can always use STEP. Now, STEP stands for Solutions to Ethical Problems in Schools, and this helps guide your course of action. These steps include defining the problem emotionally and intellectually, applying ASCA ethical standards, considering the student's age and developmental levels, considering the setting, parental rights, and minors' rights, applying ethical principles of beneficence, autonomy, non-maleficence, loyalty, and justice, evaluating the selected action, consulting, and lastly, implementing that course of action. With that said, it is crucial that school counselors advocate for students and themselves. As one of my friends once said, you cannot properly build someone up unless you have a strong base to give from. So with that in mind, it's important that you incorporate different kinds of wellness into your everyday life. This includes areas such as physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and social. With that, I hope you learned a lot from this video and that you're inspired to take school counseling on as a profession. Thank you.